In brightest day, in blackest night, all other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellows scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Marge face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light.
Hi everybody, I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 314, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
I think that's right.
We are talking Superhuman Trafficking Part 1 and Part 2 of Green Lanterns. This is going to be issues 40 and 41. First of all, I got to ask, because I haven't asked you yet. I can't believe I didn't. Have you listened to our last episode all the way through?
Yes. I'm glad you said that now, only because while I was consciously aware I wanted to mention that previously, I did doze off like about half an hour ago, so I'm barely awake now. So it had slipped my mind. It may have popped into my head during the course of recording, but yes, you done good, Chad. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, I was just editing shit together, and I was like, oh, that would be cool. I can do that. So just edited a bunch of shit together. I thought it was good.
You have a particular set of skills, Chad.
Better than me actually singing to you.
Yeah, just in general. I don't really like that. My mom has this awful habit of doing that, despite the fact everybody constantly tells her not to do it. Not just because she can't sing, but just because of the fact that people don't really like that. So we always say, everybody always tells her, please don't do this, but she has this obsessive compulsive streak in her that just prevents her from not doing it more times than not. So
I gotcha. Well, there you got it. Now your birthday's over, so enjoy.
Yeah.
All right. So you're taking 40 and I'm taking 41.
I guess.
All right, let's kill this pig.
Yeah. This would have been a real good 2 issues to like potentially break in that possible new model of bringing in guest reviewers. In fact, it would have been so good we could have just picked 2 random listeners out of a hat, let them each review 1 episode, then we just come back and go, yeah, that was a good job, guys, and just move on and not even talk about this stuff. But alas, we didn't have time to pull that together, so we're gonna have to do the best we can, and we are gonna probably stick to our model of trying to make these reviews lickety split. All right, Superhuman Trafficking Part 1. It begins innocently enough, except for the city that's being flooded by the tropical storm. Jessica and Simon pretty much are helping out this whatever city in general is being attacked by or being victimized by this tropical storm, based on everything that happened, between Harvey and everything else that happened in the fall. We probably can. It was pretty topical, so it makes sense they would do this. So, yeah, Jessica and Simon use their quote-unquote magic constructs to help prevent more damage, and they rescue people. And then other heroes like Firestorm, that should have made you happy, Chad.
It did.
Yeah, and Blue Beetle, which I don't know if that makes anybody really happy, but
it does. Jaime Reyes is pretty popular now.
I like the rescue of the cat. That made me happy. But pretty much once the heroes do their magic again and clear and prevent any further damage or as much damage as they could prevent, at this point we have a little conversation between Simon and another obscure C-tier superhero called Bulleteer, and we find out Bulleteer is actually kind of like best buds with Night Pilot, who Simon had been shacking up with a few issues before, and somehow Night Pilot has disappeared. Even though Night Pilot had moved on and dated somebody else, but she never really returned back from that date, supposedly.
Which I'm glad they threw that in there, because it'd be weird if she walked up and was like, I haven't seen my friend since she went out with you.
Yeah, that's right.
What
are
did
you doing
do
with her? She's in a fridge, isn't she? But hey, no, you got the wrong lantern, buddy. So this leads to a whole conversation of the introduction, and to everybody but pretty much us. But I mean, besides us, but to the rest of to Jessica, and then more of a further explanation to the world at large here, to Caper, which is the secret superhero dating app, which supposedly does such a great job, but you have to wonder how good a job it could really do at encryption and blocking IPs and everything else to make sure that your data is completely secure. So Simon pretty much explains all this and kind of explains that, he kind of hooked up with her a couple of times. They arrive at the watchtower, and where Cyborg kind of points at Cyborg. Meanwhile, Jessica, while this is going on, Jessica is like seemingly automatically super obsessed with this app, and she's signing up for it, and she's figuring, she signs up for the plan for extra money where the computer picks her match for her, and a lot of this episode is this issue in particular is about her kind of like playing around with the app and what the app is telling her. Cyborg is the one in the watchtower, and Simon and Cyborg are have these conversation about everything, and also about the disappearance of Night Pilot and other disappearances, about the so-called gravitonic wave displacement, quantum teleportation, which is right up there with liminal space. So basically we get a running list of all these C-listers, superheroes, and Cyborg just kind of gives a little explanation. Not every hero gets invited to the big events. I like that in crossovers. That was a nice touch. That they're pretty much local superheroes and everything else. So there's a lot of superheroes flying under the radar. It's that at this point, because Jessica's fooling around with the app, that she, of all people, just because she's not really trying, she's able to figure out that all these names of the people that Cyborg pretty much just rattled off, they're all on Caper. So that's what the commonality of all the missing heroes is that they all signed up for the superhero dating app. The little borderline cat fighting when Jessica finally gets to see what Night Pilot looks like and kind of makes a point about how she's cute, a little pretentious based on how she wrote up her page, but she's cute. They fly off into space. Simon fills her back in. It's like, oh yeah, I took her home, and she saw my place. Basically, pointing out how she didn't really like it, and Jessica's naturally thinking Simon took her to Michigan, to his sister's place, but no. Simon explains he took her to the sector house. Simon and Jessica pretty much are going to the this almost like this out of a garage operation here, which is where they're running for Caper from, and they're trying to find out basically more private information to help to try to locate any information they're going to be able to have to help locate all these missing heroes. For their credit, the Caper people are not really willing to just volunteer information, which is kind of good, really, that they aren't. Simon kind of acts like a dick as usual. I like the way I like in this how he says, listen, look, geeks, I'm the nice one, which is just so typical Simon Baz. I was like, yeah. And he kind of points out, well, I could bring in like Salak or Kilowog, which actually would be an improvement over Simon. But while Simon's trying to coerce the Caper people to give him the info that he wants, Jessica's having a little aside with her ring, because her ring kind of keeps flashing a little bit, because Jessica lied to Simon when Simon asked her about who her match was, because her match actually came up Simon. The computer, the engine in the app actually matched her up with Simon, and she's trying to not openly admit that for obviously more than just the surface level reason of potentially Simon making fun of her. Obviously, there's a little underlying sexual tension there, which we'll talk about later on. At this point, Jessica and Simon get attacked. Jessica first. Simon and Jessica track down the assailant here, and unfortunately we find out it's one of the Omega Men, Scraps, which means nothing to me.
Means nothing to me. I've read that book, but by read I mean I skimmed it.
I was gonna say, you mean open it, look at some pretty pictures, and close it.
All right, which panels have Kyle or the word Kyle in them?
Right.
Okay, cool. All right.
Right.
Bye.
So the only thing interesting is that she comes from the Vegas system, right? That's about the only thing moderately interesting about her.
Yeah, but we do see an image of Kyle in his Omega costume there from that series.
Yeah.
I will be fair. This series was written, I think, by Tom King, and he's a fantastic writer. He's doing great stuff like on the Batman side of things, and he's going to be doing some other things too. But I personally don't like that series. I know Reed. I know the Doctor over at Dr. DC Podcast loved that series. And anytime I talk shit about it, somebody out there defends it. So a lot of people really like that series, evidently. Maybe I have to give it another shot, but personally, when I first was going through it, I was just really slogging through it.
And I haven't even slogged through, so you're one up on me on this one. Luckily, that pretty much ends the Omega Men tie-in with this issue. Now we cut back to where the Bearer of Bad News. That's a great hero name. Who basically is a cellmate right next door to Night Pilot, and they're kind of having a conversation, and we find out that basically this is a prison. Now we see it's all a prison full of superheroes, and Night Pilot at least points out, well, I joined Caper to meet people like me. At least it delivered on that.
I was kind of irritated by this last page. I feel like they missed an opportunity because did you read at the beginning of the New 52 Justice League of America Vibe, the Vibe miniseries?
No.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure. I think that was, yeah. I don't think it was just Justice League of America. I'm pretty sure it was Vibe. In that issue, again, and also I think because we're talking beginning of the New 52, so this is what's that? 2011. So this is 7 years ago. In one of those issues towards the beginning of that series, I think Amanda Waller, or somebody in a role like various characters from across the multiverse that they've incarcerated, because, in New 52, and I guess now in the Flash TV show, Vibe's power is like multi-dimensional incursions, and he can feel that, stuff like that. So that's how it's tied into the book. But they show like a big image of this sort of underground holding facility, sort of like this, translucent cylinder sort of things and various beings in them. And in one of them, it's not clear in terms of like how detailed maybe some of these more foreground characters are on this page, but like almost in the background, not as clear as like, let's say that guy in the very, very, on the left side in the very top on Night Pilot's row in the very back. We're talking like small and very almost undistinguishable was Pariah from Crisis. And that got a lot of people talking like, that's Pariah! I'm a little upset that they didn't take more advantage of this sort of format. Like, just show, I get that we're getting a bunch of like never heard before characters for this story, for this, all these people that are supposedly missing, all these people that are in these cells and so on and so forth. But you can throw somebody in here, right? Like, even if you don't have to, DC's done that so many times before and they don't have to say it's canon, or that it's really that person. They just like, I don't know. And people are sort of okay with that. So couldn't they do that here and just show us somebody like, that looks like so-and-so. We haven't seen him in blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's like a missed opportunity with some of these like nobody characters.
Well, there are a few in the shadow. Maybe those would be the big reveal. I'm more fascinated by the one in the center panel on the right hand side when we have like two people in the same prison cell. I guess they were looking for a threesome.
Who is that for a second I was like, is that Hawk and Dove? But like, that can't be it. And unless she's red, he's blue. Could be female Hawk and male Dove. I don't know. Nightwing and Flamebird? No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm supposed to know the person above them. And the person from our point of view, the person to their right. Yeah.
Maybe, but almost none of these jabronis look familiar to me.
The only one who looks like 100% familiar, like I'm pretty sure we've seen, is on the very bottom left row in the middle. I'm pretty sure I've seen that costume somewhere before. And speaking of like background characters, at the very beginning they've got Bulleteer, Firestorm, which she's a white guy, so I'm pretty sure that's Ronnie Raymond. Firestorm doesn't have his own title right now, so I don't know which incarnation of the Firestorm Matrix we're dealing with these days, so I'm gonna assume Ronnie and the Professor and or Ronnie and Jason, with Jason being the mind. And they also have Blue Beetle, like you mentioned, but there's Supergirl and Power Girl. I thought they couldn't be near each other. Or does that whole different frequencies, same person thing not apply anymore for some reason?
I have no way of knowing. That could have just been something that slipped through and somebody didn't even think twice about it. I'm not sure.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even catch. And normally Power Girl would stand out like a sore thumb. I didn't even pay much attention to Power Girl in the back of that panel either. But
yeah, there was one point where because Supergirl is Kara from Earth 1 and Power Girl's technically Supergirl from Earth 2, they're the same person but vibrating at different frequencies. So when they're near each other, and we're not talking like within a couple of football fields, but when they're close by each other, I don't know if it causes some sort of headache or some sort of canceling out that makes them sick. I don't know. Or if one of them goes crazy. Something happened when they were near each other. And I don't remember if that's still in play or not. And that's all I have to say about this issue. No, I don't have anything fun to say about the actual content of the issue itself. I mean, I like the art. I'll say that.
Yeah, the art was. I almost mentioned that. The art was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, even the characters who aren't heroes look pretty good. Like, you know, the people in the garage look really well done. You know, like the girl I'm pretty sure that's a Slayer t-shirt. Well designed. They put a lot of thought into the way these people look. And, you know, I guess it really shows off this artist. I mean, as much as I complain about, you know, why can't we have at least some sort of a shout out to an obscure character we haven't seen in a while? At the same time, this artist is creating, if these are all characters nobody's ever seen before, they are creating a lot of characters and designs out of thin air. So props to them for that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that's all I got, man. And of course, at the end of this, we have an ad for Earth 1.
Yes.
Which I picked up today. Woohoo!
Yeah, I should have mine soon.
I'm about halfway through. Let's see. All right, 41?
41.
All right, 41. Superhuman Trafficking Part 2.
Well, the cover is good. The cover I have is good.
Which one do you have?
I have the one with what's her face with her two guns drawn, shooting at Simon in the background and Jessica in the foreground. Wanted Dead or Alive.
And then, have you seen the variants for these, by the way?
I may have, but I don't remember what they are.
The variant for yours is a close-up, almost a bust sort of shot.
In the heart? That's the one I have.
Yeah, that's it. And then the second variant for this one is them in that same sort of art style, but full body and kind of art bickering over the lantern. All right, so where was I? Oh yeah, writer Tim Seeley, pencilers Barnaby Bagenda and Tom Derenick, Inks by Mike Gray and Darenick, colorist. Zoom in.
Areola.
Yeah. Ulysses Areola, letterer Dave Sharp, cover Will Conrad and Ivan Nunez, variant cover Brandon Peterson, assistant editor Andrew Marino, and editor Mike Cotton. Yeah, we're reading the editing team again. Let's see if they give us a reason not to going forward. We opened 1 month ago to the date that Simon and Night Pilot had. He's reflecting on it as they're going towards through space to figure out what's been going on. Simon is, kind of reminiscing on the app and what's going on. And Jessica's still trying to hide the fact that she got matched with Simon. They are heading into the Vega system. And the planet that they're going to, Garnet, which is, we'll learn later, nobody calls that anymore. It's called Hellhole, is in the sector last patrolled by Jack T. Chance, who died, obviously, and he never got a replacement. Jessica and Simon are wondering why. If you've been a Green Lantern fan for a long time, you know why. Because the Vega system, technically, I don't think it is anymore, but was off limits to Green Lanterns, per the Guardians of the Universe. Scraps is going to be their little prisoner, leading them to what's going on. They land on Hellhole as in disguise to sort of feel like, I guess I was a little fuzzy on this plan here. Like, are they selling her, or they're just holding on to her so they can get cut in on the deal or something? Is that the plan they're supposedly working under to trick people?
Let's see.
They definitely
think
say
so.
something about being cut in on it, but like, she's in chains, so what? Are they just holding on to her? Is the guys that they're holding on to her to make sure that they get their cut?
Let's see. But two badass mercs who cut Scrap stealing from us. We're keeping her prisoner until she can pay us by hooking us up with her distributors.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. All right. So they finally find Scraps' contact. The ruse doesn't hold up very long, as another intergalactic sort of dating app screws them. And they get found out. They fight. They keep fighting throughout the streets. And then over in 6 sectors away, all the captured heroes and stuff are being loaded up to go back to work, except for Night Pilot. She gets pulled away, and then we cut back to Hellhole, where Jessica and Simon and Scraps find the 2 contacts, and they say, okay, we'll give you this information, but there hasn't been a Green Lantern on this planet forever, so in order to give you this information, the best payment is reputation. So I'm going to need you to make it look like we defeated you so that we can brag that we're the baddest mothers around, essentially. So they do in exchange for that information, and then over to apparently where this is all being, this whole prison situation is working out with Night Pilot and the other stolen heroes. The Order of the Steed. Night Pilot is brought before this sort of kingly, priestly-looking person. Welcome, my child. As you have been told, there are so many ways. There are many ways you give so that we may pull the universe from chaos. And I have an assignment for you. I hope you feel special. Next, take me to church.
Ugh.
I have a question. And I forgot to ask it in your issue because it came up in your issue. They don't make a big deal out of it, and they really shouldn't, but are they trying to imply that Jessica's bisexual?
Yes.
Or did we already know that about her?
I don't think we knew that about her. I think they are definitely opening the door for that.
Because she mentions it in your issue, am I into both or whatever? There's no answer given. But the next thing we see is her pulling up information later on Night Pilot, meaning she's accessing information on her app based on her preferences.
Well, not
unless she borrowed Simon's phone.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, if assuming Night Pilot is listed under her, actually listed under that name, she already knows at this point what the name of the person Simon has been involved with is, or I believe. So she's just checking her out. I think that's more of the cattiness of it than necessarily because she's. So I think that's more checking Night Pilot out because of the fact that she knows that Simon was into her, literally. But I mean, he had an interest in her. So
Gotcha.
I think that's what it was. But yes, so they're implying when they're asking, are you looking for men, women, both, and she gives you that that's a little too. That's not overly subtle in trying to at least make it sound like at the very least she's unsure of exactly where she lies. If not, that's probably what it's supposed to really, based on what's on the page, that's how I would interpret it. That it's at least implying the fact that she's at least open, or she's not necessarily sure that she plays for one team exclusively.
Gotcha. Not that it's a big deal, but I mean, it's another aspect of her personality that I think they might be trying to speak to, so I thought I'd bring it up. Are they? This ship they're flying, is this the Interceptor?
I didn't even notice that. I pay much
From
attention
from the animated series?
I didn't. Where do they get? When do they first get onto the ship?
Well, you don't see them get onto the ship. You do see the ship flying through space. In the page where the dead body hits the windshield.
I guess it could be. I mean,
it looks like it.
Yeah,
I
was gonna say it's probably at least modeled on it. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same ship, but it could be.
Because it's even got the little circular thing at the bottom where they can shoot their ring energy through, or at least they did in the animated series. That'd be interesting if all the sector houses are equipped with a little ship and they're all interceptors. So that's like the official ship of the Green Lantern Corps.
That is true.
I like the sort of procedural stuff in both of these comics. Like when Simon and Jessica in your issue first show up at that garage, they knock and Simon announces himself.
Yes.
As a Green Lantern or whatever. They're flying through space and they're sort of debriefing each other on what this planet is and what the situation is. So they know kind of the situation, but when things go down, they're holding to the rule of the law. So even though they're in a sector that's supposedly lawless, so whereas somebody like probably Guy or Jack T. Chance would have been on that planet and just like, there's no rules here, so why should I abide by any? So that's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I got. Anything else?
I thought there was something else.
I forgot to mention in my recap, the Order of the Steed is the same, evidently, group of people that when they first get down onto the planet in their disguise, they get approached by a bunch of
followers.
Citizens. Yeah, citizens or whatever who are begging for money or whatever, and I believe they're part of that. The Order of the Steed is what Scraps mentions.
The only thing I really liked about this issue was it was kind of nice to throw back to the whole Jack T. Chance stuff and all the stuff we read about in Core.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and the quarterly. That was kind of good.
It would have been cool to see some of that imagery.
Right.
This looks a little bit more advanced. There's not as much like trash and graffiti on the walls, and it would have been cool too. Like I can't remember, but wasn't there a specific something like someone was here, or whatever, written on the walls of one of the quarterly ones we pointed out?
Yeah.
And if that like they went back, read that, wrote that same thing on a wall somewhere.
And the art mostly is good in this. There's a few hit or miss spots. I mean, Simon looks really Simon's drawn kind of really goofy in a few panels. I'm a little. I don't know how I feel about the whole him and Night Pilot thing, because now it seems like it's almost revisionist history, where at least from Simon's perspective, they had this hot and heavy romance when the last time we saw them together, she pretty much was brushing him off. More or less, she was like, she was going. They were done. She was going to the can, and she wanted him to take her home, that kind of thing. So now, and at least we do know that obviously it wasn't the love connection that Simon seemingly thought that he found with her, because she already moved on to date somebody else next. So that's what I'm a little. I wonder if the whole point of this is at the end. So Simon's going to be just so happy to see her, and she's just going to be, well, thanks for rescuing me. Goodbye. And
Right.
just because of which we haven't really discussed, is the seeming desire to force Simon and Jessica together, or to just have a blatant amount of sexual tension between the two of them, even if they don't develop it into a real relationship.
Well, tension, I wouldn't say sexual tension, but it's almost, I think the way I read it personally, I mean, clearly by drawing them within a heart and all this kind of crap on one of the covers, they're trying to point towards that. But the way it read in story was, it seemed like Jessica never really thought about Simon until the app suggested it. And now she's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Whereas I don't think I see anything on the part of Simon towards her.
No, Simon's just oblivious, which isn't surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about these two?
No, but I'm not. This arc really isn't doing much for me.
Yeah, we'll have to see where it goes, if it does anything. I mean, I'll say this for Tim Seeley, like, you know, he's coming up with, you know, interesting stories that are relatively interesting stories that are taking place outside of concepts we already know within the DC universe. So he's definitely playing within the world a little bit more, as opposed to just sticking with some of the stuff we already know.
Yeah,
he's building it up.
He's going off in different directions, and he's not giving you necessarily what you would expect. So you give him credit for not, you know, following the beaten path, but I also can't say that stories that he's written so far, which has nothing to do with the quality of the writing, it just has to do with what they are about. Mm-hmm. I can't really say that any of the arcs that he's written so far really have enthralled me all that much so far.
That's true. And I know Seeley's certainly capable of it, so we'll have to see where he goes with his run. So, all right, on to the next thing.
On to the next thing.
What do you want to talk about first?
You go. You go into your little your wheelhouse first, and then we'll trickle down into other things.
All right. So I saw Wrinkle in Time, and as those of you who listened to that movies we're looking forward to in 2018 episode, heard that was on my top 5 list and towards the top. So I had to go see it. I mentioned before I read the books as a kid, so this is a I had to see it thing, not just I read them as a kid, so therefore I'm curious. Wrinkle in Time and the entire series, as a matter of fact, of the Madeline L'Engle books, are pretty important to me overall. So I had to see it. I didn't read any spoilers before seeing it, but I did see some of the reactions that people were having to the film, sort of non-spoiler reactions to the film ahead of time. So I will say, reading those non-spoiler sort of reactions let me sort of take a beat, take a breath, and reevaluate my position before I saw the film, because I just wanted to see it because, Wrinkle in Time. As much as I intellectually knew this, I wasn't like consciously thinking about it. Wrinkle in Time was written in the 60s as a kid's book for kids, and this movie was adapted by Disney of a children's book for kids to see. This movie is not marketed to me. So as much as I or any other adult going into this film may be putting our own wishes and hopes and what we want to see and so on and so forth, and what we want to be entertained with onto this film, at its core, it is a kids movie based on kids material. Now, as Jim pointed out in a message to me, that there are kids movies based on kids material that are adapted and appeal to the adults. So it's entirely possible. So I guess we can give it that. I enjoyed it. I thought it was visually cool. There were more than one, but not quite as many. There were more than one moments where people in the theater laughed at moments that you really got the impression they were trying to make either menacing or whatever, and it just came across as cheesy or funny. So obviously that's not good. I'm not the connoisseur of film that Mark is, so I'm not familiar with I don't really care to look up the names of the actors and stuff that I'm not already familiar with. The girl who played Meg, she did wonderful. She did really well, which you would hope since Meg is the focus of the focus of the story. Chris Pine and what's the girl's name? I know you follow the actress. The
Gugu
woman who played the
Mbatha-Raw.
mother. Yeah. They both did very well with what little sort of moments they had in the film. Bigger roles than you'd think, but not surprisingly big in terms of if you read the books. The kid who played Charles Wallace did well with the sort of intelligent young child who you kind of cock your head at when you hear some of the big words coming out of his mouth. But at the same time, his acting sort of felt robotic or wooden or whatever. I mean, he did good. There were moments where, the audiences was really connecting with him because they'd say things you'd hear like, oh, or things like that, or laughter at the funny stuff he said or whatever. So he clearly connected with people. But I felt he could have done better. And the kid who played Calvin, I thought he did well as well, but his role's more of a love interest / supporting role character anyways. Minnie Kaling, Reese Witherspoon, and Oprah Winfrey were in there, obviously, as Mrs. Who, Mrs. Watchett, Miss Watchett, Miss Witch. And they did well. A little too much Oprah for my tastes, but okay. But yeah, no, I mean, were great visuals. It adapted the story really well. Mark, you did read the books, right, as a kid?
I read the trilogy like I think most people probably have just read the trilogy more than read all 5.
Okay. So do you remember in the movie they get to Camazotz and rescue Meg's father, but Calvin gets corrupted by the It, and they test her off planet without Charles Wallace, and Meg has to recover a bit, and there's a character named Aunt Beast, and they're on there a little bit before Meg goes back to Camazotz to rescue Charles Wallace.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
That whole part is cut from the movie. There's no go to rescue dad. Charles Wallace gets left, it gets seized by It, and they leave Charles Wallace behind and then come back. So the whole Aunt Beast thing is cut, although there is a nice shout out because the happy medium, who's played by Zach Galifianakis, the happy medium, when he's with Meg, sort of finding her center or whatever, she sees things. And one of the things is a quick flash of these beings on a planet, and you can hear the happy medium say, "Oh, there's Aunt Beast." So at least there's a shout out to it. So that was missing. And there are two things missing that are two things that were really changed in the history of these characters that bothered me going into it. I figured, just non-spoiler review, but I did figure out before going into it, Charles Wallace is adopted in this. He's not the birth son of the father and the mother. So he was adopted. That bothered me until I saw the movie and how true they were to the character of Charles Wallace. Regardless of how the kid pulled off the acting, at least the character was true. So once I saw the film, that didn't bother me as much. What's been bothering me since I saw the movie, though, are Denny and Sandy's are nowhere to be seen. They're not mentioned. It's not like, oh, we have two brothers that are just off on a field trip or whatever. The twins are nowhere to be found. It is just Meg and the adopted Charles Wallace. That is it. Those are the only two children that this Murray family has. And I read online about the writer's reasoning for that, and their reasoning was such that Wrinkle in Time is not their story. And they weren't writing this with the idea of let's make a franchise out of this and do let's adapt all the books. So they were trying to pare it down enough to where they could be true to the entire story of Wrinkle in Time. Here's my problem with that. If you remember Wrinkle in Time, Denny and Sandy's have nothing to do with Wrinkle in Time other than essentially the same role the mother plays in this film. Denny and Sandy's are there, like when Meg wakes up on a stormy night when Miss Whatsit shows up or whatever, but they don't go with them on this trip. They're nowhere to be seen during the interstellar travel. They are literally just two brothers, two other siblings that Meg and Charles Wallace have that are just there. And when they come back, they're there. That's it. So I don't know what they were trying to accomplish by really getting rid of them, because there's not a part that Denny and Sandy's play in that book that could really harm the film by adding them in there.
They could have simply not wanted to. I think there's multiple reasons why they could have done this. I think number one, maybe they didn't want to lock themselves potentially into casting these characters, even when the reality is by the time you get to using them, because they are more of the factors in 4 and 5, right?
4, which is Many Waters, which that story fling. It is my favorite book of the series, but at the same time, Many Waters flings Sandy and Denny and Sandy's back through time to the time of Noah. So it's a lot more of obviously all the Madeline L'Engle books have a sort of religious overtones, good and evil sort of thing to it, but the Many Waters thing is really on the nose.
So they may simply have not wanted to cast these characters or be locked into casting these characters now when if everything worked the way that you would dream it would work, which apparently won't happen. It's not like, based on the overall box office of this movie, it's not likely that we're ever going to see 4 and 5, let alone it's probably not even necessarily likely we're going to see the conclusion of the trilogy. But
Wind in the Door and the Swiftly Tilting Planet.
Yes, the 3 books that people remember the most I think of the L'Engle books are, yes, the Wrinkle in Time, Wind in the Door, Swiftly Tilting Planet. Because I remember I read all those in school. So I think they may simply have not wanted to cast and be kind of like borderline locked in to keeping the same actors, which could be only a problem if you didn't really care. Again, like you said, they're not big factors at all in this book, so you could cast. So you didn't have to put a lot of scrutiny in casting them. But then if you're going to keep the same actors showing up and they don't turn out to be good enough to be able to pull off more leading roles, then you're gonna have to recast, and that could be. Or they just simply they made the decision that these characters are not really a factor in this book. And while yes, it obviously would have been really easy just to throw some lip service into and to acknowledge them, and that probably is a mistake not to do that. They may have just simply said these characters are not a factor in this book, and let's not put the cart in front of the horse, and let's just deal with the characters we need to tell the story. And then, so I do think it's odd that they wouldn't get a verbal acknowledgement. I mean, if you don't want to cast them, I think there's, like I said, there's plenty of reason I think not to do that, but I don't necessarily know why you wouldn't want to mention them.
What have you been seeing, if you've been paying attention at all to the box office and reaction and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, it lost to Black Panther again, which is not. But obviously, there's not a lot of shame in losing to Black Panther by itself, because I want to talk about that when we get done with this too. But it kind of underachieved from a box office perspective. There was a higher end of what people thought it might do, and it kind of fell more in the lower end. It didn't do a lot of money overseas so far, which again could have been the way it was rolled out. but it's not likely it's going to have a lot of legs. I don't think it is more of a kids movie, quote unquote, than let's say Tomb Raider, which comes out this week, and Pacific Rim, which comes out I think the week after that. But it's kind of, they all kind of overlap for the audience. So I don't really think this is going to have a lot of life. It's not going to have legs. I don't think. There's no reason to think. Plus the reviews have not been great on it, so I don't really think it's going to. Now, if the production budget was $100 million, which of course doesn't count the marketing, I mean, I suppose there's a chance it could end up more or less breaking even if things go really right, and if it does okay overseas. I mean, it only made 30-something. I'll tell you in a second exactly what it made, but it made like 30-something million over its opening weekend. So that doesn't bode well. It made a little over 33 million in its opening weekend. So it's not really. It certainly doesn't bode well. It doesn't look like it's going to come. If you're lucky, it'll make 60 to 70% maybe of its production budget back domestically during the course of its run. If it holds really well. If it doesn't, if it drops up more than 50% in week 2, now you're looking at like about $16 million added into it, and plus whatever it does during the week. So you're still looking at only like around $50 to $60 million in its first like 10 days or so, and it's probably going to nosedive. So it is a decent shot if the production budget is around 100, and then no matter how much you want to, if you want to tack on 25, let's say 25 for marketing, which might be, I don't know if that's conservative or not, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be a disaster in box office wise for Disney, but I also don't know if it's going to be enough of a jump start to say, yeah, we should do more. We should do more of these. At least Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe made a shit ton of money, but when that came out, so it made perfect sense to at least to try to roll out the next few books that still had some of the Pevensey kids in them, to at least continue that, even though it did kind of go down, fall off the cliff pretty quickly after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is the most well-known book and probably the best book, most interesting book to adapt anyway. So we'll see. I mean, it's not like it was Disney's projections were like they were expecting $50 million opening weekend for this. Supposedly they were only expecting like somewhere like maybe it was either between 33 and 35 or 35 and 38. I think it was 35 and 38. So it underachieved a little, not dramatically, but the reviews didn't help. How it holds is going to be big, and so I mean, being a fan of the books, I would not necessarily say to people who are fans of the books, it's not a slam dunk that you're not going to get to see more of these. But it doesn't necessarily look super promising either, but. It depends. I think that's definitely a jury still out kind of situation.
Yeah. And I looked it up because you mentioned marketing. They didn't do much in the way of marketing toys wise either. It looks like Funko's is going to be releasing a Mrs. Who, Miss What's It, Miss Witch pop, a 3-pack as well as an individual pack. And then it looks like Barbie has also a Mrs. Who, Mrs. What's It, Miss Witch available. But beyond that, I don't see anything else like action figures or play sets or anything like that. Just 3 pops and 3 Barbies of the same 3 characters.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting decision for something that is supposed to be marketed as a kids movie, and yet and there's not a lot of there's not a whole bunch of tie-ins on that level, so that makes you it is interesting. Obviously,
it's interesting too because it looks like, according to this pricing, these Barbies are $50 a piece.
Which means again they're being geared for collectors.
Yeah.
And I would say it seemed like in a way it seems like the movie was it's like just from looking at the trailers, it seemed like it almost was a little like. I have two minds when it came to the marketing. On one level, you wanted to appeal to people who read the book, even though looking at the visuals for this, they may not have really appealed to the people who read the books. And at the same time, with all all the adult actors that they cast in these roles, it doesn't necessarily seem like that would really appeal to a lot of kids if you're trying to get, if you're trying to play up the Meg part and get people to want to go. I don't know. It seemed like it was a little confusing in the way that the movie was being presented. Like you mentioned that maybe there was too much Oprah in the movie. It seems like Oprah was a little too present, maybe even in the hype and the marketing for the film. That was something that was supposed to make this special, since Oprah hasn't acted really in that much in so long. So that's, I don't know, something commercial like this. So it does seem maybe they were maybe trying to capture everything, and in the end maybe they kind of like didn't capture nearly enough of one thing, as opposed to, if they had focused on one audience, maybe in bringing that in instead of spreading the wealth around the way they did, and kind of like maybe borderline, I don't know if alienating is the right word, but just not appealing enough to either of the demographics they were trying to reach.
Yeah, makes sense. But just like I said, overall, I enjoyed it. It's a kids movie based on kids material. The visuals are cool. Just don't go into it expecting a lot, and I think you'd enjoy it. I mean, if you're as big of a fan of the books as I am, so you're definitely you're not missing anything. But at the same time, if you're such a huge fan, I think it's worth seeing for sure, especially when you consider how the direct-to-DVD film did several years back.
Right.
Or the made-for-TV movie, whatever it was that they did. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I wasn't let down by it, but I wasn't wowed by it either.
Well, it's good that you weren't let down by it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
all right.
So, since we're in movies, before we segue into what the final thing we're going to talk about, which won't be movies, let's talk about Black Panther a little bit. So Black Panther won the weekend again last week, which was, I think, the fourth week in a row that it did that, which becomes like the first Marvel movie to ever actually do that, to win the box office 4 weeks in a row. And it friggin' dropped only I think 38% from the week before. So not only is Black Panther making tons of bank, Black Panther is also defying the common sense model, which is that the longer the movie goes out, you're going to have bigger and bigger drops from one weekend to the next. And actually, percentage-wise, Black Panther is actually getting better, because I think the week before it was like a 41 or a 40-something% drop from weeks 2 to 3, and then from weeks 3 to 4, it was only a 41% drop. So Black Panther in 26 days has made almost $571 million, which basically puts it about close to give or take $6 million behind Last Jedi at this point. So it actually has a realistic shot to end up making more money than Last Jedi when it finishes. And it actually has a realistic shot at making more than the Avengers, which I don't necessarily know if I really wanted to, because of how important the Avengers was. I still would like to see the Avengers be number one. But pretty much at this point, if it looks like, give or take, about $53 million more, if Black Panther makes another $53 million more domestically in its run, that I think that should put it over the top to catch the Avengers, since Avengers is at 623 and Black Panther sitting at 570. So about $53 million, give or take, would put Black Panther as the number one. As surprising, as shocking as it would be, the biggest domestic moneymaker of all the Marvel cinematic movies in their cinematic universe thus far. And you have to think it has a decent shot at it, because if it continues, this weekend will tell a lot, because not that I really expect much out of Tomb Raider. I don't think Tomb Raider is going to make a lot of money. I would be really surprised if it did. But if Black Panther still has a relatively small drop this week, let's say it's still somewhere around 38 to 40 something %, which means, just realistically, even if it dropped 50%, the movie would still be making somewhere around $20 million. That it would be a little bit less than that, but it'd be somewhere in that ballpark. That still gets you a long way to what you have to do, so it's got a shot. I'm not going to say it has a great shot, but it has a realistic shot if it can hold for a couple of more weekends and still continue to do what it's been doing during the week, which isn't bad either, because even Tuesday box office had to make over $5 million. So if it can continue to do stuff like that, even for a couple more weeks where it's making $3 to $5 million every day, besides what you're adding on to the weekend, then you got a pretty good shot. So that's really that's really impressive how much money that's made. I mean, if you look at the actual top 2018 movies so far, it's like there's no comparison. It's like Black Panther's sitting there at almost 571 million, and the next closest movies, which is scary unto itself, which is 50 Shades Freed, and that's not even at 100 million. So, and before we leave movies, there's one thing, and I really hope this wasn't on the release schedule when we did our episode, because I would have to shoot myself in the head if I completely overlooked this, but at least according to the current release schedule, on November 21st, the sequel to Creed is supposed to come out, and for some reason I don't remember seeing that. That's why I'm hoping that was a late addition to the release schedule, because I'd be kind of embarrassing for me to miss that if that was already on the release schedule in January when we did this episode. Because if I had seen that, or if it had been on the schedule, one of the two, and I had overlooked it, if it had been, that would have been like my number 2 movie. I'd be looking forward to seeing Creed 2 more than any other movie this year, other than Infinity War. So I just happened to notice that because I saw because I've been seeing videos of Stallone and Dolph Lundgren training since obviously Rocky will be back in Creed, but Ivan Drago is going to be back too, since his son's going to be the antagonist of Apollo Creed's kid in this movie. So, but yeah, I just happened to notice that when I was looking for the release date, because I expected to find it was going to be 2019, which could obviously still very easily happen. All you need is somebody to tear a muscle or something, and there you go. And anything that's going to put you on the shelf for like more than 3 months, a serious injury in a movie, which is, it's possible, but it's just kind of cool that it's supposed to be like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving that it's scheduled to come out. So, all right, so that's the last of the movie talk, and now let's lead us into the home stretch, Chad.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, come on, cut this. All right, let's talk about Jessica Jones.
All right, Jessica Jones. So obviously, guys, spoilers for Jessica Jones season 2, but it came out. I watched it all. Mark watched it all. I enjoyed it. I continue to think that Jessica Jones is one of my favorite of the Netflix offerings. I understand the points of view that people have when they're giving it hell, but at the same time, I don't care. I like what I like, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So yeah, I really liked it. Did I think it was as good as season 1? No. Did I think it was several steps below season 1? No. I felt like it didn't have like a specific big bad sort of threat the same way, Kilgrave was at the beginning, in season 1. There wasn't really an actual like central bad guy technically in season 2. But man, from episode 1 when it started, I was like, they must have taken like meticulous notes on like all the camera settings and shit that they used, and the percentage of the different filters that they may have used in various scenes, because tonally speaking, season 2 doesn't miss a beat. It's the same. You can tell right away. I mean, it's the same show. So I really enjoyed it.
I think, now let's go with the pros. The pros are, they certainly continued what they did in Defenders, which was making Jessica Jones more likable. Which again, despite the fact so many people just defended her being unlikable in the beginning, like, oh, well, that's the character. Well, yeah, well, that's stupid. Because if your main character can't be inherently unlikable long term, or else people are not going to stick with that. If all your supporting characters are more likable and more interesting, or at least more likable, it's going to be a problem. So it doesn't matter. It'd be like if Wolverine was a total dick 99% of the time to everybody. If you didn't know there was a good part, there was a warm side to him, then it would get old real quick being a dick. Kind of like we talk about Simon, how Simon comes across as being a dick so much in Green Lanterns, even with them toning him down, he still has a lot of dickish side to him. So it was logical that they were going to continue to kind of make her more human and a little more relatable. and dealing with some of the issues, the fallout from things that she had to do previously. So I did like that. That was a plus. I wasn't bored this season. From the first, the first I was this close to just not even bothering with Jessica Jones with the first, while watching the first episode of season 1 until the very end, and that got me intrigued enough to want to keep going. This season didn't have the problem with that. I was at least interested in seeing where the story was where it was beginning, and intrigued about where it was going to go. So I think the season was even. I do think, personally, I thought the show lost momentum like halfway through, pretty much from the flashback episode going forward. I thought it lost a little momentum, but I was never bored, and I thought overall, from top to bottom, you didn't kind of have like a Luke Cage kind of thing where the show kind of started off pretty good and then kind of like meandered toward a little bit towards the end. And much like most Marvel shows, Netflix shows, you didn't need 13 episodes. They absolutely could have made this a shorter season. You didn't need 13 episodes. And it's really something they need to... I think they really need to kind of like make a determination. I mean, of all the decisions to make the Defenders the shortest show, it's one of those mind-boggling, head-scratching things. It's like the one show you could probably very easily justify being at least as long as the other seasons because you have so many characters in them, and yet you make that the shortest show. But again, I wasn't bored, so that was a plus. I think the newer characters they introduced this season, I thought were, for the most part, were good. You know, I liked Oscar. I thought he was good. He was a nice touch. Oscar and his kid. I thought Costa was cool. So I have some warm feelings towards the actor who played him because he was in The Sopranos all those years. So he was Artie in The Sopranos for all those years. So that was cool. Though
Which one was Costa again?
A what? The cop.
Which one?
The cop.
Oh, the cop.
The cop that was pro Jessica or appreciated what Jessica brought to the table, which leads me directly to kind of like the whole Simon Jessica good cop bad cop thing. God, I hated Costa's partner with a passion. They really overplayed the fact that she is like, okay, we get it. You don't agree with him about Jessica. We don't need to have open contradiction every single scene they're together. I think that was I don't think that was handled well. Kind of made it hard to feel sorry for her when she meets her fate too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which she's not supposed to be inherently a bad character. She just you can see from her perspective why she looks at things that way, but it doesn't make her likable, and it obviously doesn't make you feel particularly heartbroken over what happens.
Speaking of not feeling particularly heartbroken over what happens, Trish irritated the fuck out of me this season.
Yes, I was getting to that. The irony is, and now I guess we have to do it because it's a spoiler. We can still avoid it technically. Once they reveal who the killer is, which I think is the end of episode 6, because I think 7 is the flashback episode. Once they reveal who the killer of all these other experiments are, basically from that point on, not that the killer isn't still a problem, but Trish really becomes the bad guy for the rest of the season, because not because she's trying to be, but between her addictive personality and which she clearly has, she has an addictive personality type, and because of the fact that she has this insecurity and jealousy over that Jessica has these powers and she thinks she could do something better with them. Almost all the problems in season 2 are all because Trish just has to stick her fucking nose in everything. So yeah, I had a big problem with that too, because Trish was one of the biggest pluses for season 1, and I think they completely crapped on her. The way they wrote her, they crapped on her for almost the entire season until maybe the end. They try to redeem her a little bit in the final episode, and obviously they're setting it up for where she could go. But the whole idea of she's an addict, and she's taking the thing which another way, having Simpson be alive and then kill him the way they did and have him be such a non-factor was kind of stupid. But that little magic, again, quote unquote magical inhaler that he had that helped augment his own abilities, she just takes that, and all of a sudden she, knowing that she had, she's an addict to begin with, and then even if you didn't realize it right away, I mean, it should have hit you. I mean, it hit Malcolm. Is it Malcolm? I got the name wrong, right? Real quickly that the reality is that it hit him when he took it, which was really stupid for him to take it too, because of what he seems to have a better grip on understanding his being an addict a little even more than Trish does. But it hit him real quick that, oh god, that was a mistake. And I just think that there were a lot of dumb decisions certain characters made in this season. I thought Hogarth I liked her in this season. I thought she came across better in this season. A little more human in this season. Obviously, you got the vindictive side to her at the end. She basically helped kill somebody. She didn't kill them, but she helped set things in motion so they would be killed.
You know who was utterly useless? What's his name? The guy from the other PI agency. I mean, he was there, and for a portion of it, you understand his purpose, I guess, but he was in the show too much.
Yeah, and he was obviously the whole point of him being in the show was so he could hire Malcolm, I guess, at the end. But yes, the whole point, yeah, because he's just there as a major irritant throughout the whole thing. He's like a pebble in your shoe that you can't get rid of. And then breaking and entering and stealing all the shit, which is pretty. I mean, no matter how you slice it, that's pretty fucking unethical, no matter how you slice it. And then trying to take out the killer and everything the way he does and shoots Jess.
Well, it doesn't matter. We said at the beginning there's going to be spoilers.
I know. I am trying to. I was trying to delay it, but yes, I guess if you really didn't want spoilers, you probably wouldn't even have gone on this far. Yes, the big reveal is that Jessica's mom never really died in that car crash, and that Jessica's mom is also basically a super. She's been experimented with, and partially because her wounds were so much more severe that she ended up not only being more unstable than Jessica, which is kind of funny to say, but she's also a hell of a lot stronger than Jessica. So
she also looks completely different.
Yes.
Than what Jessica's mom looked like before the accident. That's why Jessica doesn't recognize her.
Right, which is a cool way of being able to justify recasting things like that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I understood Kilgrave's relevance and why he appeared in that episode that he did appear in. Which again, if you
I like that episode though.
If he looked horrible though, I thought David Tennant looked horrible. I don't know if that was by choice, if they wanted him to look horrible, but I thought David Tennant did not look his normal self. I thought he looked a lot more, something about him. I don't know if it was he looked a little more gaunt, maybe a little more disheveled. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but that kept taking me out a little bit. But maybe it was on purpose. I just seemed to think that it's like he just didn't look well, David Tennant. But I understand him haunting her based on her action but even though that was clearly a self-defense killing that she did, because she literally was blinded, or she was 3/4 blinded, and she lashed out, so she really had no way of knowing. She had very little control over what she was doing, and that a blow that she probably would have made sure was definitely not a killing blow. But I can understand that's her nightmare. Her nightmare is becoming a killer in her nightmare, especially once everything's tied into her mother and everything. That maybe this is genetic, kind of like almost what he taunts her with. That it's like it's in the blood, kind of thing. So I understand his purpose, but and again, what I was going to say was, if you're expecting to see David Tennant more in this season, you don't. There's one episode that he's in, and other than that, he's not in the season. So he did serve a purpose. Obviously, they hint at him coming back, when the time is right, based on wherever her head is. But so
yeah,
I can't. So again, from a plot perspective, why he was in it was fine. I just thought, again, physically, I thought he looked a little he didn't look well, and that kind of concerned me a little. It took me out. Uh, I didn't realize from reading the cast. I never realized that Rebecca De Mornay is the one who plays Patsy Walker's mom. It's like, wow, she's looks completely different. Never. It's like, wow. Risky Business and all that stuff. Rebecca De Mornay is playing Patsy Walker's annoying mom.
So next season, I think the only thing I can think of for next season would be, okay, so yeah, we are in spoiler territory already. So Patsy gets powers at the end of this, and for those of you who had no idea, in the first season, Patsy Walker is Hellcat in the Marvel Comics universe. So she does end up becoming a hero in the Marvel universe. So, with that being said, based on where things are, I'm going to assume Patsy starts using her abilities and trying to prove to herself what she told Jessica, that if I had powers, I'd do much more with them than you. Gets herself into trouble and so much and so often and this and that that's what brings Jessica and her back together, is because Jessica is sort of will be concerned about her and blah blah blah. You're gonna get yourself killed, and maybe that's what brings them closer together. Maybe that's what also brings Jessica towards the hero side of things, like the more out and out hero side of things, is trying to help Patsy not get herself killed while she's doing this. Gives her a taste for being an actual hero. But other than that, I don't know where else they can go with it.
Yeah, it was an interesting. Where the season ended was interesting. I mean, you have Hogarth, who pretty much. She had a tough season. She had a really tough season. I mean, you had her partners trying to screw her over. She finds out she has ALS. She thinks she's being cured by another super. That part of the what was it IGH?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the group that did the experiments on Jessica and everybody else, just to find out that's a friggin' scam, and she was never really cured. So she had a really tough season. So, and yeah, Patsy, that's what I was looking forward to the whole time. But the way they went about it was this season was pretty crappy. That Patsy, the Hellcat is one of my favorite. Ironically, since she probably will never be in that group on the show, but she was one of my favorite defenders when I read that book. She was a major component of the Defenders team when I was reading that book. So it is a really interesting spot because she really did try to. I think she really did try to help Jessica because she knew Jessica was not going to probably not be able to do what she needed to do, which was to basically put her mom down. That there pretty much going to be no choice. That either Jessica probably wasn't going to be able to do it, and then if Jessica's mom was eventually going to be put down, it was going to be at the expense of a lot more people being killed because of how strong she was and how unbalanced she was. So Trish ends up killing Jessica's mom, and that's why they're estranged at the end of the season, because Jessica basically can't even though they are obviously not blood sisters, but they are kind of like the whole Gamora Nebula. They have the Gamora Nebula thing going on at the moment. That one just has this grudge against the other, and justifiably. It's not like it's just there's always this inner work, this inner tension between them, and now it's just before I was just Trish mostly having it with Jessica, and now it's probably just as much, if not more, Jessica having it with Trish still because she still can't get over the fact that she just had her mom put back into her life as screwed up as she was, and Patsy took her away. So yeah, that's gonna be a really curious dynamic, and I also don't know what they're gonna do with Malcolm either, because they completely went off the rails this season too by having Malcolm and Trish sleep together, so they technically have a much closer relationship even though they're not. But Trish used him so horribly and took advantage of him so badly that obviously he's not thrilled with her either. So you have pretty much the three main characters on the show who are all estranged from each other. and going off in different directions to do their own thing. So that is where I think that's kind of where the intrigue is, to see where they would go. But I absolutely am more intrigued to see a third season of Jessica Jones at this point than I was enthralled to see a second season of Jessica Jones.
Right. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, guys. Well, Mark, you want to tell people how they can reach out to us? Oh, actually, I did take a screenshot. Somebody took us up on it and left a comment on our website.
Oh, really? I haven't checked that yet. Go ahead. So
it was on March 9th. Jack, so it's not somebody we haven't heard from before, but Jack, and he left a comment under the About Us section. So guys, just to clarify, if you're going to leave a comment on the website, it's much easier. I mean, it's going to show up in the same feed for us when we're approving or denying comments. So it doesn't really matter, but just to keep things organized, if you want to leave a comment on an episode, go ahead and click the post for that episode and then comment directly on that post rather than a general spot on the website. But anyways, Jack says, in response to my comments on issue reviews and your responses from episode 313, I meant that a changed review format would be more interesting for you, for both of you, Mark and Chad. Building off of your comments, I think having a guest like Corwin, Jim, Dan, and other members of the podcast community could add more diverse opinions on issues and maybe even capture some new listeners. That being said, in my opinion, episode 313's review worked. Robert Venditti is killing it on Hal Jordan and your Green Lantern Corps. In my opinion, he has a good feel for all the Lanterns. In general, Venditti writes strong character beats supported by lots of action. Most importantly, the book is fun.
Well, I think we both agree that that's the better of the two books. I think we both absolutely agree that that's the book we're most looking forward to reading, let alone reviewing, is that book. Which, I mean, again, this is not an insult. This is just stating it as it is. That as well that book should be. It has all the green, other than Simon and Jessica, who really have no long-standing role or place in Green Lantern mythos up to this point. All the Green Lantern mythos is in the Hal Jordan the Corps book. So yeah, that's a strong reason why that book should. It would be horrible if that book was a lot less interesting and more unreadable than Green Lanterns. I agree. I think we both agree that for the most part, Robert Venditti has a good feel for most of the main the four corpsmen. He doesn't get Kyle yet. I don't think he really gets the Kyle thing at the moment. I think the one he gets the least is Kyle. He has Guy down pretty good. I think he does a good job with John. He certainly shows this version of Hal on this title is much better than the version of Hal we got when he took over the Green Lantern. So I agree with pretty much what he's saying. I think I would say the one thing we're only consistent on is that we think a lot of the interesting story concepts usually don't pay off. And then occasionally you have a relative dud like the New God thing, which I don't think we cared much about, even conceptually, for the most part. But the last arc that we got with them, with the golems and everything. Other than that, I think I would agree with what he says. That's the book I had the most hope for. It's the book I look forward to the storylines more. So yeah, I agree. I certainly think he's doing a much better job now than he did at any point during his Green Lantern run, and I think he probably has gotten better overall. I think he's gotten better even on this title. So yeah, I think that comment, I think Jack's comments are pretty much dead on. And as far as bringing people, yeah, I mean, I think bringing people on is stuff we'd like to do. I think it's kind of, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's harder just to bring somebody on for like a 1 or 2 issue review, unless we know they already have passionate feelings about it. Unless like somebody let's say it was a Hal in the Corps book and it has Sinestro in it, then it's really not going to be much of a hard sell to get Corwin interested to come on. You know, so unless it's something that you automatically know someone's interested in, and it might not be as easy to get at least some of the regulars. Yes, getting somebody new. I'm sure some new people who haven't been on, which we will absolutely entertain that idea. I think that's more likely to get people to chomp at the bit, just even if it's not the ultimate material, the best material, or the issue, even the issue they would prefer to do, maybe, or the issues they would prefer to cover, given the choice, but they would still be happy to do it. So yeah, well, I think we're gonna consider all of that. So I think all of that's on the table.
For sure. All right. If people want to contact us, how do they do that?
LanternCast@gmail.com. The website is LanternCast.com. Twitter and Facebook, we are on both. Use hashtag GLCast to locate us there. iTunes and Stitcher. Listen to us on one or both of those platforms, and please leave us a positive review on whichever one or ones you listen to us on. And last but not least, 708 Lantern. 708 Lantern, and let us know what you think, because voicemails always make us smile.
And we're not going to outright promise it's going to be next episode, but it will be pretty soon. So if you've already got your hands on Green Lantern Earth 1, be sure to leave your comments for us on what you thought of the book when you get through reading it. Because we will be having our thoughts on air pretty darn soon.
Yes, and barring any unforeseen complications, which could happen, that it very likely will be the next episode. It's just a matter of whether I ordered. Like, obviously, I wasn't the only one. I mean, I ordered mine from Amazon, and despite the fact that Amazon really does tend to list their street dates for some of these graphic novels and things a week after the actual release date, but despite that, they're going to honor their own magical word of the episode, magical. Their own magical release date, which is until next week, which means I'm not supposed to get my copy until Tuesday. So without any weather complications, which is like an every week thing these days for us here, I should have my copy by Tuesday. Even if I don't get it till Wednesday, that still should be enough for us to be able to do an episode next week on it. So that is the current game plan for next week.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.